19 DEC 2025 Atomic Prayer for New Week Protection and Miracle Flow. Listen carefully. This is not a gentle moment. This is a divine interruption. You are not stepping into this new week by accident. You are stepping in by assignment. Heaven has already gone ahead of you, rearranging schedules, shifting outcomes, and issuing commands on your behalf. What tried to block you last week will not follow you into this one. What resisted you yesterday will bow to you now. This is the week where resistance breaks, delays dissolve, and divine momentum takes over. Today, you are not praying from a place of fear. You are praying from authority. You are not asking timidly. You are declaring boldly. Your voice carries weight. Your words activate realms. Your faith is a key, and this moment is the door. Now lift your spirit and align your mind. I decree that this new week is shielded. Every day is covered. Every night is guarded. No hidden agenda, no silent attack, no unseen strategy formed against you shall succeed. I release supernatural protection over your home, your work, your travel, your body, your mind, and your purpose. Angels are being dispatched right now before meetings, before decisions, before conversations, before danger even shows its face. I declare that confusion is replaced with clarity, anxiety is replaced with confidence, weakness is replaced with strength. Where you felt drained, power is returning. Where you felt unsure, certainty is rising. Your inner vision is sharpening and your spiritual senses are awakening. You will not miss what is meant for you this week. This is a week of miracle flow. Not one miracle, a flow. A continuous, unstoppable stream of divine interventions. Doors open without struggle. Answers come without delay. Help arrives without begging. Resources find you. Opportunities recognize you. Favor speaks your name in rooms you've never entered. What you couldn't force last month will freely respond to you now. I command sudden turnarounds. I command financial shifts. I command healing releases. I command restored relationships. I command divine connections. What was stagnant begins to move. What was frozen begins to melt. What was dead begins to respond. This week carries acceleration. This week carries recompense. This week carries restoration for time, energy, and tears you thought were wasted. Hear this clearly. You are not ordinary. You are empowered for impact. You are positioned for results. You are walking into days loaded with intention. No distraction will derail you. No intimidation will silence you. No setback will define you. I declare boldness over your decisions, wisdom over your choices, and peace over your heart. You will walk with confidence, speak with authority, and act with precision. You will recognize divine timing and move without hesitation. Now receive this charge. Stand up in faith. Speak life over your week. Declare protection over your path. Expect miracles without apology. Move as if heaven is backing you, because it is. This moment marks a transition, not just from one day to another, but from one level of awareness to another. The new week is presented as a deliberate assignment rather than a random sequence of events, emphasizing that every step forward carries intention and direction. Nothing ahead is accidental, and nothing behind has the authority to define what comes next. The mindset being activated is one of purpose, where the individual understands that they are moving with clarity rather than uncertainty, with direction rather than confusion. This awareness reshapes how challenges are viewed, transforming obstacles into indicators that something valuable is being protected and something greater is unfolding. The concept of divine assignment establishes a sense of responsibility and empowerment. When a person understands that their presence in a particular season is intentional, hesitation begins to dissolve. Fear loses its grip because the individual is no longer reacting to circumstances, but responding with authority. Each day of the week becomes an opportunity to enforce alignment rather than endure pressure. Decisions are no longer driven by panic or insecurity, but by confidence rooted in the understanding that outcomes have already been influenced ahead of time. This shift in perspective allows the individual to move forward with calm strength, knowing that resistance does not indicate failure, but confirmation of purpose. Authority is not portrayed as arrogance or control, but as confidence anchored in alignment. The speech frames authority as the ability to speak, act, and move with certainty, even when the environment appears unstable. This authority changes how the individual approaches conversations, responsibilities, and challenges. Instead of waiting for permission, they recognize that they are already authorized to take action. Instead of shrinking back in the face of opposition, they stand firm, understanding that opposition often signals progress rather than defeat. This mindset cultivates boldness without aggression and confidence without fear. The assignment of the new week also carries the implication of preparedness. Nothing required ahead exceeds the capacity already placed within the individual. Strength, wisdom, and insight are presented as resources that activate when needed rather than qualities that must be chased or earned. This removes pressure and replaces it with trust, allowing the individual to move without striving or overthinking. Each task, interaction, and decision is approached with the belief that clarity will manifest at the right moment and the right response will surface at the right time. Another critical element is the separation between past limitations and present authority. What did not work previously is no longer used as a measuring stick for what is possible now. The new week stands as a clean entry point, unaffected by past delays, failures, or disappointments. This creates mental freedom, allowing the individual to engage the future without carrying emotional weight from yesterday. Regret loses its power and anticipation replaces it. The focus shifts from what was lost to what is being positioned for release. This sense of assignment also reframes timing. Delays are no longer seen as denials, but as alignments. Waiting is no longer viewed as stagnation, but as strategic positioning. The individual becomes comfortable moving at the pace that alignment demands, rather than the pace that pressure enforces. This patience does not weaken momentum, but strengthens it, ensuring that actions are effective rather than rushed. Confidence grows as the individual learns to trust timing, knowing that what is meant to manifest will do so with precision rather than chaos. Finally, the authority emphasized in this key point establishes identity before action. The individual is reminded that they are not defined by what they do, but by who they are positioned to be. From that identity flows clarity, courage, and confidence. The week is entered not with questions about worth or capability, but with assurance and readiness. Every step forward reinforces the understanding that the individual is not merely surviving the week, but executing an assignment already approved, already supported, and already empowered. And the emphasis on supernatural protection establishes an atmosphere of safety that goes beyond visible circumstances. Protection is presented not as a fragile shield that reacts after danger appears, but as a proactive force that surrounds every aspect of life before threats have the opportunity to manifest. This protection operates in advance, intercepting harm, neutralizing negative intent, and disrupting plans that were never meant to succeed. It creates a sense of confidence that allows the individual to move freely without the constant fear of what might go wrong. This covering extends into every environment the individual enters. The home becomes a place of rest rather than anxiety, where peace governs the atmosphere and tension loses its authority. Rest is no longer interrupted by fear or unease because the environment itself is declared secure. At work, protection guards decisions, conversations, and interactions, preventing misunderstanding, conflict, and hidden agendas from gaining traction. Even in public spaces and during travel, there is an assurance that paths are monitored, movements are guided, and danger is diverted before it becomes visible. Mental and emotional protection plays a critical role in this key point. The mind is identified as a primary battleground, and covering the thoughts becomes essential. Anxiety, intrusive fear, confusion, and discouragement are portrayed as forces that attempt to weaken confidence and clarity. Supernatural protection stands as a barrier against these internal attacks, allowing the individual to think clearly, focus effectively, and maintain emotional stability. This mental covering ensures that decisions are not influenced by panic or insecurity, but are made from a place of calm assurance. Physical well-being is also included in this comprehensive protection. The body is presented as guarded against sudden weakness, exhaustion, and unnecessary strain. Strength is preserved, energy is sustained, and recovery is accelerated when challenges arise. This does not suggest the absence of effort or responsibility, but rather the presence of divine oversight that preserves health and vitality. The individual is empowered to function fully without being constantly drained by unseen pressures or unexplained fatigue. Purpose-driven protection adds another dimension to this theme. The individual's calling, goals, and future are guarded against sabotage and delay. Distractions lose their ability to derail focus. Wrong connections are filtered out, while beneficial ones are allowed to surface. The path forward is protected from detours that waste time and energy, ensuring progress remains steady and intentional. Even when challenges arise, they are unable to dismantle purpose or erase direction. This protection also addresses unseen and silent threats. Not every danger announces itself, and not every attack is obvious. The speech highlights the importance of safeguarding against what cannot be detected with natural senses. This includes hidden intentions, unspoken opposition, and plans formed in secrecy. Supernatural protection functions as an early warning system, exposing what needs to be avoided and blocking what should never reach the individual. This creates a deep sense of trust, knowing that safety is not dependent on constant vigilance, but on divine oversight. Another layer of protection is relational. Misunderstandings, manipulation, and emotional harm are restrained before they can damage connections. Conversations are guided, words are measured, and intentions are clarified. This prevents unnecessary conflict and preserves peace in relationships that matter. Where separation is necessary, it occurs without chaos or emotional destruction. The completeness of this protection allows the individual to move through the week with boldness rather than caution. Instead of shrinking back or hesitating, they advance with confidence, knowing that they are not exposed or vulnerable. This assurance removes fear-driven decision-making and replaces it with faith-driven action. The individual no longer navigates life expecting harm, but anticipating safety, stability, and support, allowing them to fully engage their responsibilities and opportunities without restraint. The activation of prayer through bold declarations shifts the understanding of prayer from a quiet, uncertain appeal into an authoritative expression of faith. Prayer is presented as a dynamic force rather than a passive ritual, emphasizing that spoken words carry power when released with conviction and alignment. The act of declaring is not about volume or emotion alone, but about intentional speech that aligns belief with expectation. When words are spoken deliberately, they shape atmosphere, influence outcomes, and establish direction. This approach to prayer requires confidence, clarity, and an understanding that words are instruments of change. Bold declarations redefine how individuals engage with challenges. Instead of reacting to circumstances, they speak into them, asserting authority over fear, delay, and resistance. The speech highlights that silence often allows uncertainty to dominate, while declaration disrupts it. Speaking out loud creates momentum, turning internal belief into external action. Each declaration reinforces identity, reminding the individual that they are not powerless observers, but active participants in shaping their environment. This transforms prayer into a partnership between belief and action. The discipline of declaration also strengthens focus. When words are spoken with intention, they clarify what the individual truly expects. Vague hopes are replaced with specific affirmations, and uncertainty gives way to direction. This clarity prevents distraction and mental wandering, anchoring attention on desired outcomes rather than potential setbacks. Declarations function as anchors, stabilizing thought patterns and reinforcing commitment, especially during moments of pressure or doubt. Another significant element is the consistency of spoken declarations. Activation does not occur through a single moment of speech, but through sustained alignment of words and belief. Repetition is not portrayed as redundancy, but as reinforcement. Each time words are spoken, confidence deepens and resistance weakens. This process trains the mind to align with purpose rather than fear, creating an internal environment that supports progress rather than hesitation. Over time, declarations become instinctive responses rather than forced actions. Bold declarations also influence emotional resilience. Fear, anxiety, and discouragement often thrive in unspoken spaces, growing stronger when left unchallenged. Speaking words of authority interrupts these patterns, replacing emotional instability with steadiness. The act of declaring truth over emotion creates emotional discipline, allowing feelings to be acknowledged without being allowed to dominate decisions. This emotional alignment strengthens endurance, enabling the individual to persist even when immediate results are not visible. The speech emphasizes that declarations must be rooted in belief rather than desperation. Words spoken out of fear lack authority, while words spoken from confidence carry weight. This distinction encourages the individual to cultivate inner alignment before speaking outwardly. Declaration becomes an extension of identity rather than a tool for manipulation. When belief and speech are synchronized, words move beyond affirmation and become commands that establish boundaries, release momentum, and reinforce purpose. Another layer of activation involves timing. Declarations are most powerful when spoken intentionally rather than impulsively. This teaches discernment, helping the individual recognize moments that require silence and moments that demand bold expression. Knowing when to speak and what to speak enhances effectiveness, preventing unnecessary struggle and wasted effort. The ability to declare at the right moment creates strategic advantage, allowing words to land with precision and impact. This approach to prayer also cultivates accountability. Speaking words aloud makes belief visible, requiring the individual to align actions with declarations. It removes the comfort of passive faith and replaces it with responsibility. What is spoken must be supported by behavior, mindset, and perseverance. This alignment strengthens integrity, ensuring that declarations are not empty statements, but reflections of genuine commitment and expectation. Through bold declarations, prayer becomes a daily practice of alignment, authority, and intentional living. Each spoken word reinforces identity, strengthens confidence, and activates momentum. The individual learns to use their voice as a tool for transformation, refusing to remain silent in the face of resistance, and choosing instead to establish direction, clarity, and expectation through deliberate, empowered speech. The concept of an unstoppable miracle flow introduces the idea that transformation does not occur in isolated moments, but through a continuous stream of divine intervention. Rather than expecting a single breakthrough, the focus shifts to sustained movement where progress builds upon progress. This flow represents momentum that cannot be stalled by previous delays or present limitations. It establishes the expectation that once movement begins, it continues, carrying the individual forward with increasing speed and impact. This mindset removes the pressure of waiting for one defining moment and replaces it with confidence in consistent advancement. Acceleration is a central element of this miracle flow. What once required excessive effort now responds with ease. Barriers that demanded struggle lose their resistance, and pathways open without force. Acceleration does not imply chaos or rushing, but rather efficiency and precision. Each step taken produces results that previously required multiple attempts. This creates a sense of alignment where timing, opportunity, and readiness intersect naturally. The individual experiences progress without exhaustion, advancement without burnout, and success without constant strain. Sudden shifts are another defining aspect of this flow. Situations that appeared fixed begin to change unexpectedly. Conversations turn favorable, outcomes reverse, and obstacles dissolve without warning. These shifts are not random but strategic, occurring at moments that produce maximum impact. What seemed immovable becomes flexible, and what felt distant draws near. This element of surprise reinforces faith and expectation, reminding the individual that circumstances are not as permanent as they appear. Financial movement is included within this miracle flow, emphasizing provision and stability. Resources arrive through unexpected channels, and financial pressure eases as alignment replaces scarcity. This does not promote recklessness or passivity, but confidence that effort will be met with provision. Opportunities for growth, increase, and sustainability become visible, allowing the individual to plan, invest, and move forward without fear. Financial acceleration supports purpose rather than distracting from it, enabling focus on long-term goals rather than short-term survival. Healing and restoration are also woven into this theme. Physical, emotional, and relational wounds are addressed through gradual yet undeniable improvement. What was damaged begins to respond to care and alignment. Restoration is not portrayed as instant perfection, but as measurable progress that builds over time. Each improvement confirms that recovery is underway, strengthening patience and perseverance. The individual becomes more attentive to growth rather than fixated on absence. Another important aspect of miracle flow is the restoration of lost momentum. Delays, setbacks, and interruptions are reframed as temporary pauses rather than permanent losses. Time that felt wasted is compensated through accelerated progress. Skills, confidence, and opportunities that were sidelined are reactivated. This creates a sense of redemption where nothing experienced is ultimately wasted, and every season contributes to future effectiveness. Divine connections play a critical role in sustaining this flow. People appear at the right moment with insight, resources, or encouragement. These connections are not accidental but strategic, aligning with purpose and timing. Relationships become catalysts rather than complications, supporting forward movement instead of creating distraction. This relational alignment reinforces stability and expands influence. The flow also affects decision-making. Choices become clearer and hesitation decreases as confidence increases. The individual senses when to move and when to wait, reducing missteps and unnecessary detours. This clarity strengthens trust in the process, allowing progress without constant second guessing. Momentum builds as decisions align with timing rather than emotion. Expectation fuels this flow. Anticipation replaces doubt, and readiness replaces fear. The individual approaches each day assuming progress rather than resistance. This posture attracts opportunity and sustains motivation. The belief in continuous movement transforms how challenges are perceived, turning them into transitions rather than threats. Progress becomes a pattern rather than an exception, reinforcing the understanding that advancement is not rare but ongoing. The focus on inner transformation highlights the importance of change that begins within before it is seen externally. Clarity replaces confusion as the mind becomes settled and focused, allowing thoughts to align with purpose rather than fear. Mental noise quiets and distractions lose their influence, making it easier to recognize what truly matters. This clarity affects perception, enabling the individual to see situations as they are rather than through the lens of anxiety or doubt. Decisions become more deliberate, guided by understanding rather than impulse, and uncertainty no longer dominates the thought process. Strength emerges as a response to inner alignment rather than external pressure. Instead of relying on adrenaline or emotional intensity, strength is rooted in stability and endurance. This inner strength allows the individual to remain composed under pressure, maintaining focus even when challenges arise. It is not reactive or aggressive, but steady and controlled, providing the ability to persist without becoming overwhelmed. As confidence grows, resilience increases, making it possible to face difficulties without internal collapse. Confidence plays a central role in this transformation. It is described not as self-promotion or pride, but as assurance rooted in identity and alignment. This confidence changes how the individual communicates, carries themselves, and approaches responsibility. Self-doubt loses its authority, and hesitation gives way to decisiveness. This shift allows the individual to engage opportunities without fear of inadequacy, trusting their capacity to respond effectively. Confidence also enhances presence, making interactions more impactful and intentions clearer. Emotional balance is another critical component of this interchange. Anxiety, fear, and discouragement are acknowledged but no longer permitted to dictate behavior. Emotional awareness replaces emotional dominance, allowing feelings to be processed without being allowed to control decisions. This balance creates stability, preventing extreme reactions and fostering consistency. The individual becomes less reactive to external triggers and more responsive to internal alignment, strengthening emotional maturity. The transformation of thought patterns contributes to sustained peace. Negative cycles of overthinking, self-criticism, and anticipation of failure are interrupted and replaced with constructive reflection. This mental shift reduces internal conflict, freeing energy for creativity, productivity, and growth. Peace becomes an internal condition rather than a response to favorable circumstances. Even in uncertain environments, calmness is maintained, allowing for effective navigation of challenges. Courage develops as clarity and confidence deepen. Fear no longer paralyzes action, but becomes a signal to move with intention. Courage does not eliminate risk, but it enables movement despite uncertainty. This courage empowers the individual to speak up, make necessary changes, and pursue opportunities that once felt intimidating. As courage is exercised, it strengthens, reinforcing a cycle of growth and self-trust. Inner transformation also enhances discernment. The ability to evaluate options, relationships, and opportunities improves as emotional noise decreases. Discernment allows the individual to recognize what aligns with purpose and what distracts from it. This reduces wasted energy and prevents unnecessary conflict. Choices become more strategic, supporting long-term goals rather than short-term relief. This internal renewal impacts external behavior. Communication becomes clearer, actions become more intentional, and reactions become measured. The individual operates with a sense of control and composure that influences their environment positively. Others respond to this stability with respect and trust, further reinforcing confidence and effectiveness. The process of inner transformation is gradual yet consistent. Each moment of clarity builds upon the last. Each act of courage reinforces confidence, and each experience of peace strengthens resilience. The individual becomes increasingly aware of their capacity to adapt, grow, and lead from within, recognizing that true transformation is not dependent on changing circumstances, but on cultivating strength, clarity, and confidence internally. The call to action emphasizes that faith is not passive agreement, but active participation. The individual is urged to move beyond listening and into intentional response, recognizing that belief gains power when it is expressed through action. This activation requires alignment between words, mindset, and behavior, ensuring that declarations are reinforced by deliberate choices. Taking action becomes a demonstration of trust, signaling readiness to step into what has been declared rather than remaining in a state of observation.